The War of the Worlds, The Andromeda Strain, Rendezvous with Rama, Neuromancer, His Master's Voice, Three Stigmata of Palmer Aldrich. What do these books have in common? Well, these are books that did not make it into my top 25 books, science fiction books of 2025. In this video, I'm going to talk about my best reads. I read 64 books and it was very difficult. No, it was impossible to narrow it down to a top 10. So I'm going to do top 25. The first 15 books are not in any order. However, I'll give you the top 10 as a countdown from number 10 all the way to my favorite read of 2025. Let's start. I didn't want to pull down 25 books of the shelf at once, so I'm going to do it in groups of 5. So here's the first cohort. I think it's a good one. Neil Stephenson, Anathem, is going to start us off very quickly. A big book of ideas. Fantastic beginning. First half of this book for me was an all-time favorite. 5 out of 5. Genius. Characterizations, the mood, the setting, so original. I loved it. However, the second half of the book, to me, just did not live up to the early promise. I prefer books that kind of build, that snowball. This one melted a little bit, but still fantastic. If you're looking for big ideas, if you're looking for a smart author that you can just feel his brain working and being excited by what's happening on the pages, Neil Stephenson. Let me know in the comments down below what your favorite Stephenson might be. Anathem is my favorite because it's the only one I read. But I'm looking forward to finally getting to Seven Eves. I've been meaning to pick it up. I think Stevenson is an author that I'm going to read a lot from, but probably not back to back. There's something about his writing that even though I appreciate, and I had a great time overall with Anathem, I think I'll need a little bit of a break in between books. And a good break, if you just read Anathem, would be to pick up The Resident, or the Polish title, Resident, by Michał Policht. So this is a self-published book. Michał sent me this book, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. It's a much shorter read. One idea, squeezed all the juice out of it. Fantastic, well-developed world. This world where these big corporations, or at least one corporation, has kind of a stranglehold, monopoly perhaps, on consciousness, on transfer of consciousness. Fantastic. There is a mystery. It's a great idea. You can basically sell your body, in a sense, to someone who needs to be in your city. So if someone is in Moscow, let's say, and you are in Buenos Aires, and they need to come to Buenos Aires, you go into a room, a facility, they go into another one, and their consciousness is transferred into your body, and that person from Moscow is now walking around Buenos Aires taking care of his or her business. As you can imagine, not all is well. So very interesting idea. I thought well written, very readable, quick. I would give this a shot if I were you. If you like to read self-published books, support these authors. I think this is really a good one. Claire North is certainly mainstream, certainly not a self-published author, certainly not a beginner. The First 15 Lives of Harry August is her science fiction book. Now she just put out, where is it? Slow Gods. I got this for Christmas. Slow Gods by Claire North is her most recent book, but this, I don't even know when it was published, a few years back for sure. I just read it now and I really enjoyed it. Light on science fiction, great writing, great characterization, great ideas also. We have this trope of time travel, kind of waking up, not really time travel, but waking up and reliving your life again and again. So as you got to the end of your life, you're traveling back in time to the beginning, and you're reliving it. But in this case, we have people throughout history who have had these lives and they find each other. And this way, they can kind of travel back in time and send ideas back, let people know in the past what is going to happen in the future. Just well done, fantastic, fun, gripping. Isaac Asimov, The End of Eternity. I read a couple of Asimov books. And there's one that I preferred to this one. We'll definitely talk about it a little bit later if you keep listening. The End of Eternity, however, was an interesting idea. We have these Eternals who kind of control the world. Short book, well written. Asimov I've rediscovered him. I thought he was just like Foundation was a little bit dry. It's been a long time since I read it. I remember liking it, but I haven't actually picked up an Asimov book until I picked up a couple this year, and I like them both. So one of these Eternals falls in love, something that he's not supposed to do. What's going to happen? Again, big ideas, well written. Isaac Asimov, there's a reason why he is one of the big three, right? Stanisław Lem, the big four. I would put him there. Lem is amazing. Memoirs Found in a Bathtub, kind of satirical, kind of strange book for sure. Kafkaesque, definitely. We have this kind of bizarre, absurd espionage society, and our protagonist, we're actually reading his memoirs many, many years later. The framing for this is a little bit strange at first. I wasn't sure if it's really necessary, but whatever. We're reading this memoir written by our protagonist who is just caught up in a situation without an answer. Absurdist. If you've read The Trial of Kafka, this definitely harkens back to that. An interesting Lem, definitely deserving to be on list of top 25 books. Not my favorite Lem, I'll be honest with you, but still amazing. So first five, let's get to the next. All right, we've got our second group, guys. I guess if the first one was 21 through 25, these are books 16 through 20 on my list. Olaf Stapleton, Cyrus, one of the oldest books for sure I read in 2025. I guess War of the Worlds would be the oldest, but this was written during World War II. World War II does make an appearance on the pages as well. Cyrus, a dog, caught up in a human body. Really a wolf, not so much a dog. And we can see how he is pulled between his human side and the wild animal. Lots of contradictions within Cyrus. An amazing story because how deep Olaf Stapleton was able to dive into the psyche of this imaginary being was really impressive. I enjoyed it. The story was good. Some of the ideas were surprising. There was lots of sexual tension between Cyrus and a woman, human woman, that I didn't necessarily find interesting or kind of thinking about it or visualizing them together was a little weird, I have to say, but I get it. I mean, Cyrus was essentially a human with human emotions. He falls in love with a woman. Fine, whatever. Little weird, but overall, the book I thought was fantastic. I don't know if you've read it. Let me know. Were you bothered by some of that or was it perfectly okay? Am I being too sensitive? But I wasn't really upset about it at all. I still thought this was an amazing, interesting, rich, kind of Frankenstein in a way, with some of the sadness, melancholy, that some of the thoughts that this dog who is really alone, he's not one with other dogs and he cannot be one with humans. So he was alone, like Frankenstein's monster. Anyway, Gods Themselves. This is the book I was telling you about. The Gods Themselves by Isaac Asimov, the other Asimov on this list. Fantastic. This was amazing. It's a book kind of made up of 3 parts, 3 stories. I liked each of them, although the middle one, from the point of view of these aliens, let's call them, fantastic, slow unwrapping of what they really are like. I thought this was great. This is my favorite Isaac Asimov book that I've ever read. Alistair Reynolds, The Prefect. This is not my favorite Alistair Reynolds, but it was fantastic. I loved it. Detective story in space, but so much more. Space opera as well. Larger world consequences. Fantastic. House of Suns is my favorite. Alistair Reynolds, nothing has supplanted it yet, but this was awesome. I'm gonna read more in this world. The Prefect Emergency, I think these books are called, and The Prefect or Aurora Rise, as it has been rebranded. I thought it was great. My dog is going crazy in the kitchen. I don't know what she's doing. I'm gonna go check on her, excuse me. My dog was behaving a little weird, but I think she's okay. Let's get back to the list then. Australia, Cordwainer Smith, the master of short story, with his only proper book, novel. This was great. Read this on a buddy read. A few of these books actually were read on a buddy read, but this was a recent one, and we all had a great time with this. I think Cordwainer Smith has this ability to write weird story and still make it feel serious. So it's weird, but it's not a joke. It's strange, but you're buying into it. This was fantastic. If you haven't read in Australia or other Cordwainer Smith short stories, I read The Ballad of Lost Khmel. The world that he builds, fantastic. So I'm looking forward to reading more from Cordwainer Smith. Such a weird story. It's difficult to even tell you what it's about because it's about a lot. But it was a fun ride for sure. Very original, very unique voice in science fiction was Cordwainer Smith. I read Dune 2 or 3 times, never continued on with the series. Finally, I read Dune Messiah, and I thought it was great. There's a time jump, of course. Things change a lot. I'm not going to talk much about it if you haven't read it. Obviously, there's spoilers for Dune also if I started to talk about what is happening here. But suffice to say, there is a major change, a major shift in our protagonist that I think most people know it's coming, but it's very well done, very nuanced as he's being pulled in different directions. So yeah, I really enjoyed Frank Herbert's Dune Messiah. I'm going to continue Children of Dune. I'll read it sometime in 2026. I'm looking forward to the movie also because I thought the first 2 installments were great. The third one, I think we're going to get it end of I don't know, doesn't matter when it comes out. I'm gonna be there. I believe Dune 3, the movie, is going to connect Dune Messiah and Children of Dune, kind of squash them into one book. I don't know how they're gonna do it. Just the fact that there's that time jump. We'll see. But anyway, this is my second grouping. And now let's talk about books 11 through 15. All right, guys, our last group before we get into top 10, which will be in order. Peter F. Hamilton, Pandora's Store. Perhaps this would sneak into my top 10 if it wasn't for the fact that book 2, Judas Unchained, has kind of slowed things down, stalled things really for me. But it's mostly because of the fact that I'm listening to it as opposed to reading. Listening audiobooks are just not for me. I cannot sink my teeth into. And this is such a long book with so many characters. We're talking about around 2,000 pages for this story. It's a bit too much for me. But having said that, the story is great. The setup, the premise, the stakes, fantastic, intriguing. Aliens in this book, incredible. There's a certain chapter here, chapter 18, that many people have said, and I agree, one of the best things you can read. That chapter could be a short story in itself, and it's simply spectacular. Well worth reading. So I'm hoping that when I do go back to Judas Unchained and read it as opposed to just finishing the audio that I'm doing, this will rise overall. But I'm finding that books that are that long are a little bit of a problem for me. I don't know, maybe standalones, singletons, as we call them, are the way to go for me. Such a book happens to be Fiasco. Another Lem that I read this year. This was really interesting, really good. It's even the title, I think, suggests Lem's outlook on our possibilities of future contact. He's not the most optimistic fellow. This was really good. I thought it was interesting. Again, not my favorite Lem, but well worth reading. Different take. He's exploring the idea of how impossible first contact would be for humanity. Of course, that idea is explored beautifully in Solaris. This is a completely different type of story, but I thought it was very interesting, very inventive. Then we have Walter Miller. So another classic, a classic here. I think this was written in the 50s, Canticle for Leibowitz. I thought this was amazing. This was on the cusp of being in my top 10. I really loved it. A bit of a kind of like a stitch-up novel, 3 separate stories, time jumps, future dystopian, kind of future post-apocalyptic. Really, maybe it's more like, but actually both. Parts of this book are laugh out loud funny. There's darkness. There's sudden things that happen that really surprise you. Miller goes for it in many instances with this book. And I thought it was extraordinary. I thought it was fantastic. And I could say many of the same things about Gateway by Frederick Paul. I really enjoyed this read. Fast-paced, lots of action. We have adventure, we have greed, we have relationships. Some things did not age very well in this book, I will say that. But overall, other than kind of this one instance, the book I thought was fantastic. So fun to read. Such a great story. Have you read Gateway? Should I continue with, because this is a series, the Hichi Saga. And now a series that I'm definitely continuing is The Culture, Ian M. Banks. And here we have Look to Windward, the latest installment in the series. Read this on a body read, really enjoyed it. Not my favorite book in the series, I will say that, but it was good. It was good. I love how Ian M. Banks is able to, with each book, bring something new to the table. So it's not a series that kind of rehashes new adventure, but kind of the same old stuff. No, each one is different. Each one is unique. Each one informs you about his take on this post scarcity society, his ideas for the future, how this society would develop. Different aspect is presented in each of the books. And because of that, I like all of them because they all kind of inform the bigger build, that puzzle that is the culture. So yeah, Look to Windward was a good one. I encourage you to pick up Ian M. Banks if you haven't read him. I wouldn't start with this, but you can start pretty much anywhere. If you have a culture book, read it. I started with Consider Fleabag, and I thought it was a fantastic way to start. I liked it, but a lot of people I know do not enjoy that book as much as I did. Player of Games is probably the one where the consensus is start with that one. But let me know what your favorite culture book is, if you've read a few already, or if you've completed the series. So now we've looked at 11 through 25. Now, if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's get into the top 10. As always, before the war mind and I shoot each other, I try to make small talk. Confused? Keep reading. Hanu Rajanemi's The Quantum Thief is number 10 on my list of best books of 2025. Fantastic. Convincingly confusing, convincingly inventive, weird, great world building, good characters, great action. It's better than Neuromancer in my book. It's not really cyberpunk, it's beyond that, I suppose. Quantum punk? Is there such a thing? Maybe, maybe not. This was great. I really enjoyed it. I was confused. I didn't always know what was happening, but for me, by the end of the book, things came together. It worked out. And I am looking forward to reading book number 2 and number 3. The Causal Agent is number 3. I'm looking for the book number 2 to continue, but I will have to reread this. Reading this one time is not enough. Khan Rajanemi, a great author, because this was really well written. The pacing is good. No info dumps, no hand holding, but just a great action and an inventive story, and definitely mind bendy throughout. So yeah, at number 10, Quantum Thief. At number 9, a powerful story, Octavia E. Butler with Kindred. Butler introduces an idea of time travel in a very interesting way. She doesn't over explain it. It's not about this speculative aspect. This book is about human nature. She uses time travel to take a person from the 20th century, a black girl married to a white man, and dumps her into antebellum South, puts her in this incredibly difficult position of being a slave. She's ripped out of time and faced with the impossible. And the way Butler tells this story, I think, is amazing. Full of empathy, full of adventure, full of difficult choices. I thought this was just a fabulous book to read. Is it really science fiction? I don't know. The science of time travel is not explained here. It's certainly speculative fiction at its best. I love this book. Gripping, lonely, and surprising in the way it affected me. I, who have never known men, by Jacqueline Harpman, is my number 8 book of the year. This was fabulous. This is a story of 39 women locked underground in a cage, not knowing why no one is talking to them. This story really affected me. It's a haunting, heartbreaking novel. The detail of psychological exploration in this book was fantastic. It's nuanced, it's beautifully written, it will hit you. The protagonist, unnamed protagonist, I thought was fabulous. Someone you can relate to and someone you'd like to spend time with if you are in that predicament. Someone who's willing to do what others want. No big answers in this book. As a reader, you can kind of write your own ending almost in a way as to where are these women, what is happening to them. So don't expect big reveals at the end. It's not that type of book. It's a quiet meditation, but just an amazing, amazing story of humanity, shown in exactly the type of way that speculative fiction, that science fiction is able to. Fantastic book. I decided it'd be a good idea to keep the top 10 kind of building behind me as we go. Number 7, Janusz Zajdel, Paradyzja. I visited Poland this year, Poland and Czech Republic, and I picked up quite a few books while I was there. Polish science fiction, Paradyzja, a fantastic story. Great example of this unique angle that authors from outside the mainstream can bring to the table. Zajdel, fabulous author. The Polish science fiction award is actually named after him. It's the Zajdel. So if you win a Zajdel, that's good. Unfortunately, this book was not translated into English, so I'm not going to talk about it too much. But I loved the ideas. I loved the writing. I thought it was fantastic, fantastic story. And I wish it was translated into English. Maybe one day. So number 7, Paradyzja. At number 6, we are back to Ian M. Banks. We are back to the culture Accession. A challenging read, but a great story. A mind-bending story. An outside context problem appears. OCP, as they call it, appears in the universe. An artifact reappears that they have no way of understanding, goes way beyond the understanding of even such a powerful society as the culture, even such powerful entities as the minds. The minds are these incredibly advanced AIs that control just about anything within the society of the culture. In any case, this book was fascinating. This book kind of goes between human point of view, and it dives deeply into minds, these, again, artificial entities, conscious entities. And the way Ian M. Banks was able to show this here was fascinating, the way these minds communicate with one another. It's humorous at times, dark humor for sure. I thought this was amazing. The culture, challenging to read for sure, but so well worth it in the end. I loved it. So Accession is my number 6 book of the year. And you can tell that I've had a lot of books that I enjoyed if this one is so far down the list. Let's get into the top 5 now. We are going to start this exclusive list with an incredible book. I don't even like to read books of short stories, to be honest with you. They don't always work for me. But this is one of the best books I read this year. Bo-Young Kim and her collection of short stories titled On the Origin of Species and Other Stories. Simply fantastic. Just about every short story here was great. I loved all of them. And that's very unusual for me. Each one was interesting. Each one was unique. We have a lot of reflection on kind of post-human existence. Some of them have a bit of fantastical. Not every single short story is strictly science fiction, although most of them are. I don't know. There was just something about Bo-Young Kim's writing and the translation that we get here that just was unputdownable. I love these short stories. I thought they were interesting. When you were reading them, there was this paradigm shift also that would occur at times where you would shift the perspective, where you would look at the situation from a different side. I thought these short stories were just simply marvelous. Bo-Young Kim is famous in South Korea, well regarded, not really well known here in US. I encourage you to pick up Bo-Young Kim and give her writing a shot. I thought it was incredible. And I think this would appeal even to readers perhaps outside science fiction, because there's a lot of humanity in these short stories. And I do think also readers of fantasy will appreciate this, and might be a fantastic bridge, a proper gateway to proper science fiction, not the sci-fantasy that we get from time to time, actually more and more these days. This was, in my opinion, amazing. All right, guys, at number 4, Marek Huberath with Gniazdo Światów. Nest of Worlds is the English title. This book is translated, and it's fantastic. For the fans of both, I would say Inverted World by Christopher Priest. That's kind of what this book reminded me, but also of some of Le Guin's writing, So there's a lot to love about this book. Weird, strange, great book to read. But the reason why it's so high on my list has nothing to do with just its straight story. It has more to do with its metafictional aspect that the author is using here. He is bringing you essentially into the reading experience. Nest of Worlds is a book that appears in this story as you're reading Nest of Worlds. So it's just these worlds, one nestled in the other. And I had goosebumps. And I don't know if it's going to hit you the same way it hit me, but if you pick up this book and read it, if you start to get this strange feeling of being part of the story, it's like nothing else. If it doesn't happen, it's still a good book. But if you get the feel that I got from this amazing reading experience, it's very likely that it's going to be very high on your list of favorite books. One night when he was 12, Tyler Dupree stood in his backyard and watched the stars go out. At number 3, we have Spin by Robert Charles Wilson. Great novel. Thank you, Richard. First of all, I got this gift from Richard from Vintage SF. I like this book so much that I had to pick up a hardcover also when I found it at a used bookstore. Amazing story, well written. If you like hard science fiction, but you want the book to be really well written, if you want that marriage between hard SF and literary novel, this is it. This is a good one for those fans. Exactly what I was hoping for. Fantastic story, good characters, lots of depth, nuance to the decisions that they're making, good writing, big ideas, fast-paced, decisions that make sense. This was great, fantastic. Quick read also. There are follow-ups to this story, but I was very happy with the way this book kind of wrapped up and ended. And I don't know, I'll probably continue with other books by Robert Charles Wilson at some point, but this was satisfying in itself. A fantastic book. Let me know in the comments down below if you've read Wilson. Are all his books this well written, or is this a unicorn? I don't know, but I'm happy to discover him as a new author to me in 2025. Deciding between the top 2 books of the year was very difficult, impossible task. I was going back and forth. Finally, I decided that at number 2, we're going to have Ian M. Banks once again, this time with The Algebraist. I don't care which copy you pick up and read, just read the book. It's great. I, of course, love the cover art on this one. Spectacular, evocative, as is the story. I loved it. There's lots of action. There is a mystery. There are incredible scenarios, beautifully written book also, just easy to read. Some of the culture books can be a bit difficult. This is a breeze, a great introduction, in my opinion, to Ian M. Banks to see if it's going to work for you. If you don't like this one, I have a feeling you might not love the culture either. It worked for me. Really grand space opera. A lot happens. Funny at times. Thought-provoking, definitely. One of the best or worst villains I read in a long time is in this book. Very dark stuff. Just a great story overall, beginning to end. I loved it. It was fantastic. It was one of the early books I read. I read this on a buddy read early on in the year and loved it. We all did. And it stayed with me. I've been thinking about this book. It easily could have been the number 1 book of the year. It really, in some ways, it is my number 1 book of the year because I've thought about this one more than any other. So yeah, if you haven't read it, I recommend it. See if you like it. And it's not a culture book, but again, a fabulous introduction to Ian M. Banks. Let me know in the comments down below. What do you think about The Algebraist if you've read it? I read 64 books in 2025. And at number 1, we have The Rise of Endymion by Dan Simmons. Fabulous ending to an incredible Hyperion Cantos. 4 books. And this wraps up the story just beautifully. So satisfying. I had tears in my eyes. I loved it. I loved every minute of my reading experience of this book. I was so happy the way this story was being told. Such a fitting end. I loved it. I know so many people have read Hyperion and have not continued, and that's fine. Hyperion, even though the ending is so open, still stands up on its own because of its structure, because of its literary merit, but the story is good. I urge you to continue if you haven't. Read all of it because book four, when you get to the end, in my opinion, simply spectacular. For lovers of hard SF, for lovers of science fiction with good writing, for lovers of ideas, big, grand scope, there is nothing like Hyperion. There's so much here. So it wins Book of the Year for me, even though The Algebraist on its own as a story is fantastic. Can't go wrong with so many of these books on the shelf. I had an amazing reading year, 64 books. And as you can see, the top 10 here is simply spectacular. I'm going to start wrapping up because my dogs are going crazy. But if 2026 is anywhere near as good as 2025 was for me, it's going to be amazing. I cannot wait. If you watch this till the end, I want to say thank you. And I want to wish you the happiest of New Year's.